everyone, and welcome to Conversations with Candace. This is a podcast where we talk to interesting people about interesting things, and the whole premise is that you can learn something in one conversation. I am author of best-selling novel Spiritual Warfare, and I am speaking to business owners and people who followed their dreams. So I am here with Khepra, who actually has a raw food juice bar on H Street. And I wanted to talk to him about that. So welcome and thank you for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be a guest. Thank you.
Thank you. So tell us, how did you get into veganism?
Well, it started as a teenager. That was I was born in 1972. So, and, when I was in high school, this is the late 80s, I was into what most kids was into. Hip hop was like really kind of fresh and new. And during that time, hip hop was going through sort of like a culture consciousness. All of the things that came with that in terms of the music that was being put out, and and then a reflection of Black people, especially understanding like their roots,
Yes,
to Africa, and so it wasn't just it was like getting into that, but also getting into health, and it kind of was like one of the things that I was studying along with culture and consciousness and what that all meant. But the health really the health angle really I guess called me, and that was more of what I was supposed to do with like my life. Like that was supposed to be like my mission, part of my my purpose.
Wow.
And so becoming a vegetarian was like, okay, that was just like a no-brainer, back then. And and again, it was like some of the seeds from some of the songs I was listening to was planted then, but then that was a seed where it was like, okay, I need to read up on this. And this is pre-internet.
Gotcha.
So you had to do things the old-fashioned way. You had to go and buy books. So I was always, anytime I'd see the street book vendors, I'd always look at the health books. So, back then, it was like Queen Afua had a book, Dr. Africa had his book, and of course they've been, sort of like mentors in a sense, from far away, if I could say that, and just always really inspired by their works, but then other works too, just kind of feeding it, and then ultimately it was like you heard about raw food, and it was like, wow, that's really interesting. And again, and this was really kind of soon after, so I had been experimenting with that even like shortly after I became, vegetarian.
So you kind of went from vegetarian to vegan and then to raw food exclusively.
Okay, okay. Now let me let's back up, because the whole word vegan is really not necessary. When I say vegetarian, I'm saying vegan. Vegan was something that was created because vegetarians, obviously you had different levels of vegetarianism, where you had people eating dairy and things like, and even fish and fowl, and still claiming vegetarian. Oh, it's not red meat.
Yes.
But it's really black or white. It's like in veganism, that term was created to the animal rights, and like the PETA, the apathetic to animal movement. Like for me, and I differentiate that because I think there is a difference between vegans and vegetarians that do this for animal reasons and to do it for health reasons. I'm definitely first and foremost doing it from a health perspective. Not that I don't love the animals.
Yeah, of course.
But the thing is, like, I know vegans, vegetarians who smoke cigarettes, who do unhealthy things, maybe even drink alcohol, again, which are detrimental to our health.
To
But
your
then it's
health.
like, I won't eat such and such and such and such because,
Well,
because you sin. And look, that's their right, but it's just, again, it's a difference.
it's a difference. And that's true. And you want
It's
to
a
be
huge
clear about
difference.
the
Yes,
difference. So
yes.
that's fascinating to me about how you got started. So did you find that when you were starting that you got support or that you had a support system, or did you feel like you were more so alone in this?
Oh, I was alone. There was no support system what to speak
Yeah,
of,
this was like the
especially
pre-era. Yeah.
especially when I went raw. I was the only person I knew that was raw.
Wow.
And then I mean, because especially back in I started eating fully raw 100% of the time back in 2000, and I was the only raw food person that I knew of in Washington D.C. Maybe there were a few others here and there, but
It was
um,
mainly
I,
you.
right, it was mainly me. Even though I say I was alone, it was that period of my life was necessary in order for me to kind of. It was almost like I was reborn. Like I had
Gotcha.
to go back into the womb, and the womb is dark and it's lonely unless you have a twin.
Yeah, you're by
It's like,
yourself.
you're by yourself. And so,
Yeah.
for me, in order for me to almost go through, it was a transformative process. So in order for me to transform, you have to die and be reborn
Hmm.
symbolically. And that was a death and rebirth all in the same during that process for me. I was kind of on, I was going through a lot of changes just personally, and I wanted something different. It was just in my spirit and my instinct to say, okay, I need to just stop eating.
And
I need to figure this out because food is just a distraction. So I was doing a lot of fasting, and then it was just like, well, when I come off the fast, I can't just go back to what I was just eating.
yeah,
I gotta do raw food.
you got to do raw
So
food.
it was like, so initially it was just fruits, just eating a lot of fruits because that was just easy to do. But then I had to understand that if I'm gonna do this fully, that it's not just fruits. I went to I think this is 2002. So this is like, I'm like 2 years into this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I still don't know anybody. But I said, man, I got to meet some people that's doing it. So they had a raw food festival in Oregon, Portland, Oregon. I said, I'm going.
Nice.
And you
Nice.
know what's so funny? I met 3 people that I know to this day. And okay, let me just let me put a cultural spin on this too, because it was about 300 of us at the festival.
Okay.
Out of the 300, it was probably about maybe 5 that were of African descent. 3 of those people was from the DC area.
Wow. Interesting. Out of the little 5, there were 3.
One of them lived literally almost walking distance from me.
And
Isn't
you
that
had to
crazy?
go all the way to Portland
All
to
the way.
find this
I had to go
person.
all the way to Portland. I had to go, and
Wow.
it's somebody I actually work with to this day. He's done a lot of my videos. I have a DVD set that I sell on my website, and but he's been filming. I mean, we've done at least a dozen or so. He's filmed at least a dozen or so of my classes over the years
Wow.
since that time. He actually amassed a collection of experts and just interviews
Mm-hmm.
of people just in the raw food movement.
And now you have your restaurant and you're a chef. But
Right.
how did you learn all of those things? Did you take a class? Did you just find the right people? How did you learn how to prepare these meals?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, it was really divine sequence, because again, you're talking about pre-internet, or the internet was really beginning to really evolve, but it still wasn't at the level it is today.
Yeah.
And so information was just, you had to either get it through books or through an actual person that you could physically touch.
Love it.
So
Yeah.
that's essentially, and then, you know, for me, because in the beginning, I was I was on a mission to get my hands on any book or video that I could. And this is even, and DVDs wasn't even really popping at this point either.
True.
So we were still, I was still getting VHS. So I was like
Video
getting my
home system.
right.
Exactly.
Right. You right. You have to break that down. You might have to Google
Yeah,
that
exactly.
to
Tell
your
people.
younger listeners, because DVDs are now phasing out. So I had basically got my hands on every book and video that I could. And, all of the books that I got my hand, I would do all of the recipes, literally.
Wow.
And videos too. It was like, that was like the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Later on, I did actually meet my eventual teacher, mentor, who I could call, that really helped me to, because it's like, I always say, like, if you're really going to be accomplished in something, you're only going to get so much from books
Yes.
and videos and things. You got to have, you have to, at some point in your journey, no matter what it is, you're going to have to meet somebody who has walked to walk and who has talked to talk.
Yes.
So I was able to connect with that person for me, and that was Dr. Reese Latham, who interestingly enough is credited with really creating raw food cuisine as we know it today.
Wow.
So, when you put that in perspective in terms of the legacy, him being really the godfather of raw food cuisine, and I'm not just talking about fruits and salads,
Yeah.
like, utilizing all of the equipment that we have now with the blender, dehydrator, food processor, creating, making our own breads, using sprouting techniques,
Wow.
making desserts and entree dishes and things like that, again, that rivals any other cuisine,
Yes.
and we're doing it using all plant-based, but you will also, the thing is like what I always say is like, the food in your plate should really look like something you could recognize in a garden. And this is the problem with a lot with vegan vegetarianism, is that a lot of vegan vegetarianism is especially the people who really are hardcore vegan, in terms of them not, in terms of them eating mostly processed foods.
Yes.
So it's like they're just eating a lot of starch based, bread based, pasta, soy, stuff that you can't recognize in the plant world.
And we find out.
Especially being plant based. That
Yeah.
you're not eating things that look like plants.
And we're finding out now the hazards of a lot of soy in these type
Sure,
of products.
sure. Oh, no question about it. Again, that's why I say, look, yeah, I say vegan because it's become such a part of people's conscience in terms of what that means.
Mm-hmm.
But, in my heart of hearts, because that's what even from, my teacher, he always talked about that. Like, look, we're vegetarians. Like
Let's
this
get
whole
this
vegan
straight,
word,
okay?
like, I don't even, right. This word, we have to redefine what it means to be a vegetarian.
Gotcha.
Because it doesn't mean eating chicken and eating cheese and these kinds of things, and then still calling yourself a vegetarian. No.
That's funny though.
No. Right.
Because people
That is
really
our term.
try. People really
Yeah.
try and ride that line, which is like, okay,
Right.
no. So let me
Right.
ask you this, because
Mm-hmm.
how have you seen the benefits, the physical benefits of doing this for such a long period of time? Like, are there specific instances that you could tell us about your health and things of that nature?
Well, what's interesting is, like, I really get that from other people. And when I hear their testimonies, it's really, you almost can't look at me. I mean, you can, and I can share, but it doesn't mean a whole lot because this is my life and this is what I've
Mm,
been doing. This is natural and normal to me.
gotcha.
I don't know what it is to, because I'm approaching 50 years of age.
And you don't look like it. So that might be the benefit right
okay.
there.
Well,
Seriously.
yes. Yes, that's one of the benefits. It's one of the benefits. But I always talk about, quantity is important. We certainly want to live a certain amount of years. Time is everything. But quality of life.
Yes.
I feel like I'm in now. I mean, I in some ways, like when I think back to when I was say 18 or even in my early 20s, in some ways I'm in better shape now
Hmm.
than I was 20, even 30 years ago, which is crazy. I've always been into movement and athletics. So physically,
Yeah.
in terms of the way you move. Now I know that like now my body doesn't heal as fast, but one of the things that's interestingly that I talk about, because it's really not so much, yes, what you eat is critical, but then as you get older, you have to modify or almost evolve. Your diet has to evolve with your age.
Mm.
What do I mean by that? What does that mean?
Yeah.
Obviously what you eat, but then how much you eat, how often you eat. Again, you got to think. You're a teenager. You're still growing.
Yep.
Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. But you reach a certain age. You're not growing anymore. And definitely not physically.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to double in size.
No.
So protein, the need for excess protein and certain the frequency of how you eat, it should change. It should grow up. Just
Yes.
as you grow up,
Your
your
diet
diet
should
and
mature.
your diet should mature. Yes, it should grow up along. Like children can get away with eating 3-4 meals a day with snacks, and and have no problems.
Yeah.
But when you're talking, you get beyond 25, 30 years old. Again, what it is what it's going to be. And so now when you start to tailor your diet and the frequency of your meals, how much you eat, what you eat, you really what you can do is start to really preserve the body
Yeah.
the way it is. Because the thing is, like, aging aging is inevitable, but we can really arrest that development
That makes
of
sense.
aging. Okay, where aging is even like I look at aging, and my approach to aging is like I almost welcome it
Mm-hmm.
because the thing is like I know with my diet and lifestyle, as I age, you want to get better.
Yeah.
You don't want to get worse. Like, and you don't want to feel worse. You want to feel better. You want to, you want to it should get better with time. But it's only if we follow certain rules and guidelines.
That
If we
is,
violate the body and we abuse it. See, we don't understand that, like, digestion is really almost everything
oh my gosh,
in
that's
terms
so
of
true.
health. And if we're eating, well, number one, we as a society, as a people, we eat far too much food.
Yes.
Okay, and
Yes.
but part and a big part of that is because we're eating too much of the wrong stuff. So what happens when you eat the wrong stuff? When you eat the wrong stuff, you're not being nourished. You're being fed, but you're not
Not being
being nourished.
nourished.
You're not getting nourishment. Nourishment meaning minerals. Okay, so if you're not getting minerally nourished, you're going to continue eating because the body is not being fed. So what it is like basically the food, because of most of our commercially processed food is nutritionally void. It will allow you to eat 3-4 meals a day and still your body is starving, which is
Yes.
insane. It's a crime. It's it's crazy because it's things like that are really true crimes because you don't see it.
Mm.
And it's so accepted and it's so part of our culture and what everyone does and what everyone expects that
And no one questions it. Yeah.
no one questions it. In fact, they defend it. And
This is
then
true.
the thing is like you got to look at all of the things that's connected with that. Now if you're eating too much, you're eating the wrong stuff. Now when you have a health crisis, you all of the systems the economy depends on it.
Yes.
Because now you got insurance, health insurance, you got hospitals, you got pharmaceuticals,
Yep.
you got all of the quote unquote professionals that are supposed to help you with your health crisis because of your dietary habits, because of because of the nutritionally devoid food. All of these things is all interwoven, and again, it's such part of it's normal,
Yeah.
quote unquote.
And I find it so interesting because when we get to that point where we're breaking down, we don't even have the discipline to turn it around anymore.
Yeah, because the thing is like you are what you eat.
Yep.
And what you are is what you will think. Like the food that you've been eating takes over your brain. So you can't even trust that person's thoughts. It's deep. So again, you're not even, because scientifically, you literally are what you eat. They could take a cell or they could take a piece of your hair and look at it under a microscope, and it will have the same molecular structure as the food you have been eating. So all of your organs, all of your thoughts, all of your emotions is what you've been eating.
Whew, that's deep. That's deep.
Yeah,
Well, let me
it's
ask
deep.
you this. So what do you say to the people who say, okay, Khepra, that's nice, but I want food that tastes good. I want to be happy with my meal and things like that. What do you say to those people? Because I've actually eaten at your restaurant and I was
Okay, and what
impressed.
do you say to that?
I was very
Why was
impressed.
okay? Why were you impressed?
And I'll tell you why. Because initially when I came in, I was like, raw food, nothing's cooked. That was my main thought. I was like, nothing's cooked. How is this going to taste? How is it going to be seasoned? But literally the way that you combine flavors and put things together, you don't
Yeah,
even notice. That's how I felt. Like
right,
I didn't even really notice.
right,
Yeah.
right, right. Because the thing is like everything that we create. Let's see. The thing is, there is hope at the end of the day.
Yeah.
There is a light at the end of the tunnel because everything that we crave, like nutritionally, is correct. The thing is like it's
Yeah.
all the form and the process that we're eating it in.
That
So,
is so
for
true.
example, when you eat a sandwich, okay, every component of that sandwich is a natural craving of the human body. So the thing is like if we break down the components of that sandwich, we see the violations that have occurred, and now we see again eating those things day in and day out, year in and year out, decade after decade of your entire life. The repercussions
Yeah.
that takes place because of how the food that you've been eating has been violated. It's been violated with just the growing techniques. it's been violated in terms of the heating techniques.
Yep.
And that's when we get into raw food and why raw over cooking it. And again, that draws the huge line between like a cooked vegetarian and a raw vegetarian because see, all cooking really is ripening. Okay, when we think of ripe, when something is ripe, we usually just think of fruit because we see that ripen. A banana can ripen on the countertop. Okay.
Yeah.
And we can see fruit ripen before our eyes, and we know that it's ready to eat once it's ripe. But when we take something like, let's say, rice, for example, rice,
Mm-hmm.
unless you cook it, you can't bite it, you
Yeah.
can't chew it, and your body won't get any use out of it. But now you take some water and you take some heat, and what that water does, what the heat does is heat the water. Well, the heat forces the water into the rice, so now you can chew it and now you can swallow it and get some benefit out of it.
Yeah.
That's it's a forced ripening process. Now it's well done. It's ripe. So when we eat food that's ripened, that ripens in nature, that ripens with the natural growing cycle of the sun and the moon and the wind and the rain and the earth, we connect with that versus using fire, other kind of fire like microwave or deep fryer, which is what most, if not all, restaurants use. Microwave, they're not even using flames anymore.
Yeah.
They're using flames with the deep fryer, and they're using microwave.
Yeah.
Because it's fast and it's efficient. But because it's fast and efficient, the cost is inefficiency for your health.
Yep.
See, that's the balance. That whatever is cost effective, well, it's going to be cost effective for the restaurant and efficient for the restaurant, but you're going to bear that cost in the long run.
Yeah, exactly. It's defective
With
to
your health,
you. Yeah.
with your price, with your health, which is priceless. So you can't put a price tag on your health and vitality. The health and vitality breakdown, nothing else matters, really.
Nothing else matters. And that is the point of all of it. And
Yeah. So we
wow.
can make food because the thing is like, when we look at everything that we crave, whether it may be dairy, whether it may be protein, sugar, salt, all of these things are fantastic. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic. I love salt. I love fat. I love sugar. Okay, but we can eat these things in their proper form, and they benefit us, and it's guilt-free. People always say, "Oh, I'm on the sugar-free," or "I'm not eating sugar." Well, number one, they're really speaking out of ignorance because everything is sugar.
Has sugar in it, yeah.
Everything is sugar because it has to break down into a sugar. So you're not, it may be a bitter tasting sugar, but bitter is a sugar.
Gotcha.
It just has it has a different structure which gives it a bitter taste. But usually if you're tasting a bitter, it means that you're tasting minerals. Minerals taste bitter, which is why we have to challenge our whole everything, our whole body, our whole soul, our whole essence to eat more bitter food, so that now, because we can change the composition of our blood by changing our diet, using a little discipline, because then what will happen is, like, if you eat enough bitters over enough period of time, that bitter will now start to taste sweet. What used to taste sweet to you before now tastes too sweet. That's when you know you're changing. Again, when I say you are what you eat,
Yep.
but then I also say you eat what you are. So
Hmm.
now, when you start to change what you eat, and the only way to do that, because you mentioned something earlier in the conversation about, using discipline and that kind of thing.
Yep.
And you talked about, like, you asked me about support. So
Yep.
the thing is like, now, if somebody is really looking to change their diet, first and foremost, the education piece.
Yeah.
So that's critical, the education. So you have to constantly, because the thing is like, you're with our mass media, social media world, you're getting bombarded with what we said earlier was quote unquote normal.
Mm-hmm.
You can't turn on television, you can't even, computer, everything. You're going to get bombarded with what is now become normalcy. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have to offset that by either shutting yourself off from that and, reading certain books, or watching certain videos that is going to teach you, is going to educate you, so that now you start to change, you have to hit it from all angles.
All
So the
angles.
education, the education is critical. You have to detox.
Yep. That's a big
Detoxification
one.
is really the beginning, because I use the analogy of, like, say, a room or a house. Like, say, if you want to rebuild that house, or let's say like you look at a room,
Mm-hmm.
and like they have these home improvement. One thing they do, you got to get rid of the old first
You gotta
before you
strip it
replace it with the
down.
new.
Yep.
Right. So that's the same thing within our bodies. Like, we have to detox. We
So
have to start to change. So we have to stop eating, drink fresh juices, and then once you come off that, then it's now start to replace that and say, okay, instead of this, I'm going to eat that. Instead of a starch, I'm going to eat a salad.
mm-hmm.
And instead of cereal in the morning, I'm eating fruit. These are
Those
the things
decisions.
that,
Yeah.
right, these are the ways in terms of, like, how you start to, slowly, because the thing is, like, in terms of, looking at the body, this is an animal.
Yeah.
And it wants to be fed in certain ways, even beyond food. There's certain urges that, that are natural.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is like, when we start to really understand that as human beings, we have the ability to have logic. But the thing is like,
Yes.
that logic, again, that logic is a lot of times illogical. So it's like our own mind is our own worst enemy. Because now,
Exactly.
we're using the power of our ability to come up with arguments. And that ability is, again, is a blessing and a curse all in the same, because now the human brain is so amazing that you can literally and scientifically justify the eating of anything.
Yes.
And it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
That's how crazy that is. Like, you can literally make a conscious and believable and scientific argument to eat any and everything. So it's like, you got to go beyond logic. You got to go beyond scientific study. You
Yeah.
have to go to, like, you have to go to intuition. You have to go to God. You have to go to your higher self to say, okay, like, what is it really that I should be doing?
That
Because
is so deep.
now you can't trust. Again, I mean, like, I've literally heard every argument from every quote unquote expert on why they eat this, and it's all correct and incorrect at the same time.
Exactly. Exactly. Where do you go? Where do
Yeah,
you go? No.
exactly.
And let me ask you
You
this about the
yeah.
education piece, because you actually do things with education. I think I saw something about a retreat that you do sometimes.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, we're going back. I was in Jamaica last month,
Okay.
and I'm going back in November. And basically, what I'm doing is really just giving people an experience for a week, not just eating the raw food, but we also get a chance to step away from our
The
urban
everyday. Yeah.
right, our urban environment, really step outside and, we start to, hear the waves crashing on the reef and, eating the raw food. We have a day of fasting, but then it's me doing 2 classes a day. Not just looking at we're looking at both the culinary aspect of raw food, but we're also looking at the spiritual, we're looking at the emotional, we're looking at the scientific, we're looking at the whole thing. But even the place that we go to is really nice too, because it's a spa.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as part of the package, you get massage treatments, but then also the place is designed in harmony with nature.
Yes.
So everything is, again, like I said, we're on the reef. So there's a lot of coral. So you have a lot of coral on the property. Even a lot of basically the structure was built with coral.
Mm.
So it's just a magical, mystical place, and it's really perfect for what I bring in terms of the raw food and making nature comfortable. Because nature can be uncomfortable. I
Sometimes.
mean,
Yeah.
I could tell you to walk out in the woods. It could get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that's nature. That's part of nature. Or going swimming in the ocean. That can be challenging. That could have a considerable amount of risk. But we have a way of connecting with nature that is safe, is spiritual, is healing. It's really ideal for, again, like I said, what I bring in terms of the raw food. And, getting to experience
And
like a
connecting
lot
with
of the
other
fresh,
people. Yeah.
yes, the fresh local produce. So I'm bringing some things that is hard to get there, but then there's things that we don't get here.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the fresh fruits and vegetables that grown there. So, it's really a nice, beautiful thing. So
Well, I have just been blown away by this conversation. And once again, I thank you for being on the show. Can you just shout out where people can connect with you? And I'm going to put everything in the description as well. So,
oh, okay, yes, thank you. Well, my website is, you can do chefkhepra.com or Kepra's Raw Food Juice Bar.com. Like you said, I'm sure you'll have links in the description,
yes,
so you
we
don't have to
will.
worry about the spelling. I'm on most of the social media. You can find me on Facebook. You can just do my business page is Kepra's Raw Food Juice Bar.com, and then I have a personal page as well. And then I'm on Instagram. So yeah, and then my newsletter,
Okay.
which is on my website. Again, I try to send out newsletters, in terms of different events that I might be having. I mean, obviously, we talked about the retreat
Mm-hmm.
that I have upcoming in November. So, but really, in terms of like what you said, we spoke about in terms of the education piece. That's what most of my videos on YouTube. Not so much there are a few of me doing some culinary stuff,
Okay.
but it's really more or less some of the philosophy
Behind everything.
of right, the philosophy of this lifestyle.
Wow. And you said it all. You have said it all. And I am
I
so
gave you a
impressed.
mouthful.
Yeah, you gave
You
me a
know what I'm saying?
mouthful. You gave me a mouthful. Well,
A
we are
mouthful.
definitely going to make sure that we put everything in the link. And we hope that everyone goes and checks out your restaurant and tries it. Just try, and
You
you
know,
will
we
be
used to,
changed.
we had, no, I had, and this is, I think, yeah, I had this, I have the picture of the gentleman. It was a gentleman, I kid you not, literally was following me on social media, came all the way from Florida just to
Wow.
come to my restaurant. So I said, why? That's what I said. I said, because he's like, wanted to change his diet, this, that, and the third. So he bought a plane ticket. I was like, because a lot of people come to Washington, D.C. for a lot of different reasons.
Yeah.
And it's, Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. We got a lot of tourism, a lot of international travelers. And I always ask, I'm like, oh, what brings you to D.C.? We got museums and Smithsonian
Exactly.
and et cetera,
Yeah.
right? Like, no, I came to D.C. to come here. And so it was very humbling.
That,
And
yeah.
but also very, very inspiring, because it's like, man, if this guy was willing to do this,
And you know
okay, he
that
could
you're
have found a
doing
place.
something right, like you're making a
Right,
difference,
right.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So what's your excuse?
What is your excuse, everyone? Are you
You have
listening?
no
What's your
excuse.
excuse? Yeah,
No
go
excuse.
out and try it. Well, thank you so much for being on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.